some options. You still need to configure where your data is going to reside and things like that. So yes, it is still basically a shared responsibility, even in SaaS applications. Of course, you don't have to do like all the things, and when you move to the cloud, there's stuff that you do not need to control anymore, like the physical access to the data center and things like that. But there is a lot of other stuff that, yeah, you still need to take care of. With this, we talk about having a layered approach to security. And with this, we talk about the defense in deep. The defense in deep is a strategy that will employ a series of mechanisms. And those mechanisms, what they want to achieve is to slow the advance of an attack. And well, if you slow it down, maybe you can have alerting, you can detect it, and then yeah, you can try to avoid and block that attack. And you also want to have like that a bunch of layers that maybe one of the layers, okay, will by itself, by the way that it's configured, etc., well, it will block, okay, the attack. And if we see this, we have data in the end of all of this, because in most cases, what attackers want is data. So you have data that is stored on databases, on disks that are inside virtual machines, on a SaaS applications like Microsoft 365, on an Azure storage account, you name it. It is your responsibility for that storage. That storage, you are responsible for it, and you need to control the access to the data to ensure that it's properly secure. So of course, we need to do protection, okay? It's not just the physical security. It's not just the identity and access. It's not just a perimeter that we need to provide security with, basically with firewalls, with DDoS protection and things like that. Okay, it's not just the networking that we need to limit the communications between resources. We need to deny communications by default, and we need to restrict inbound and outbound where and when appropriated and how it is appropriated. Okay, we also need to look for the compute. So we need to secure the access to virtual machines. We need to make sure that they have anti-malware tools. We need to check if they are patched, because if you have unpatched servers, of course, well, you basically might get issues there, and someone might exploit because of an unpatched server. But also important is your applications, because I've been in companies that they do a very good, very awesome, to be honest, like really good physical security, identity and access with Azure AD, with P2. They have a perimeter network very well configured with application gateways, with firewalls, with NSGs and all of that. Same thing with the compute. But then they outsourced the development of an application to a company that, well, they were not just the best team in terms of security. They developed the app worked, but in terms of security, that application was not good. It was really open, and they were having very big issues because of that application. And that application lead that to hackers were able, okay, to enter into the part of that application managed, and they basically could steal all the data that they had. So it just need, okay, one of these points to fail, and then yes, we can maybe we can get in through that. And of course, well, they had the subset of only that application. Then they tried to do a lateral movement, and well, that was detected, and that was closed, the attack, because of that. But yeah, that application had very serious concerns in terms of security. Azure Security Center allows us to ensure that our Azure workloads and infrastructure is working in a secure way. So in order to access Security Center, well, we can access it through several different ways, but in the burger menu, we always have the entry here if you don't remove it explicitly, so I can just go here and I'm in the Security Center. In the security center, so this is the overview blade, and you can understand a little bit your secure score, how many subscriptions you have active in here, and of course the idea is to increase this secure score by fulfilling a series of best practices that they have here as recommendations. I can just check some of my individual resources. I can, for example, go to the inventory. I can check all my resources, and I can see here, oh, there's a virtual machine in here. I can click, and I can see details about this virtual machine. I have a total of 5 recommendations, 2 in high, 2 in medium, and 1 in low. And if we scroll down, okay, we can see here that we have here some, okay, of the recommendations that now I can follow if I want. But I don't only have recommendations. I also have like past assessments, which is, okay, things that I'm doing well in this virtual machine. But of course, I should take care of these ones here, like things that are not that hard to implement, like installing an endpoint protection, disk encryption, and things like that. If I go back, we can see, like, for example, here a storage account, and I have this storage account that also gives me some details here. Like, I have like 2 recommendations around this. Is that on purpose? I don't have secure transfer enabled on this. I have disabled it, and you see here, boom, just shows up right away in here. So security center, very important to have this running and configured. And this is just an example of some of the recommendations and some of the details that you can see under the security center. But of course, an important part of this is identity and access. Like I said before, we have network perimeters, we have firewalls, we have physical access controls, and they are basically the primary protection for corporate data. But today, network perimeters have been, let's just say, increasingly, they are just not there anymore, because with the brink of your own device, with mobile applications, with cloud applications, with the work from home, not everyone is within the company perimeter anymore. So we really need to switch a little bit from the model that we said, oh yeah, we have a perimeter and everything that's inside the perimeter is okay. Everything that's outside, we should treat it as a threat. No, you should treat everything as a threat, even if you're inside the perimeter of your company. And Azure AD and tools like, for example, that we can find with Azure AD Premium P2 to do identity protection with real-time risk assessments. Every time that the user is logging in, I understand the login and understand if that is a threat or not based on AI algorithms that Microsoft has. They have data to build those algorithms of billions of logins per day that they have in their systems. So of course, yeah, for sure, we can do an amazing work together with those tools. So identity is start to be more the new primary security boundary and not the perimeter. And so you really need to understand who is the user that's on the other side, from which type of device is connecting, what is the status of that endpoint, so that then you can decide if you're going to give access or not, okay, to that user. So with this, we start to talk about, and let's talk about implementing user authentication and authorization. So we have authentication and authorization, and well, with authentication, it's the process that we have, okay, to establish the identity of a person, a service that is going to look for a resource. It will involve the act of challenging, okay, that, let's just say it's a user to provide legitimate credentials, like usually, let's just say today and most commonly used will be the username and the password. Not saying that that's the best one, because it's truly not the best way to do that today, but it's what is established in the market as the market standard. And then, yes, after that, well, we know it is that person. We can improve this, and we're going to talk about further today in how to improve the traditional username and password component. But yes, if it's the username, it's the password, okay, we'll believe yes, that's the user. Then we have the authorization, that is the process to establish what level of access, okay, you're going, well, that user that's already authenticated should have. And is this allowed or not to access the resource that is asking to? So that will be the authorization, okay, process of all of this. If we talk about the Microsoft Identity Platform, and this is a very, it's amazing what Microsoft built, both for IT pros and for the Azure stuff, but also for developers that want to build custom applications. So there are several components that make part of the Microsoft Identity Platform. We have OAuth 2 and OpenID Connect. They are standard compliant authentication services that they will enable developers to authenticate to several identity types. They can go for work and school accounts like Azure AD, standard user accounts. It can be, and it can go to personal Microsoft accounts like Outlook.com, like Skype, like Xbox, or even social or even local accounts by using Azure AD Business to Consumer. And this can get to social accounts like social networks and other identity providers. We also have open source libraries. So Microsoft Authentication Libraries, also known as MSAL, supports all these standard compliant libraries like OAuth, OpenID, and yeah, that's what we can make use. And with the MSAL, we can get to the endpoint, the 2.0 endpoint for Azure AD, where yes, through the same place we can get to Azure AD accounts, so work or school accounts, and also to personal Microsoft account. Then of course I can also and I have developer content, developer documentation that explains all of this really well. I have the application configuration API. I have support for PowerShell, for Azure CLI, that programmatically I can configure my application through Microsoft Graph APIs and things like that. So basically, in a nutshell, for developers, this Microsoft Identity Platform will offer integration of modern innovations in the identity and security space. Like, for example, and we're going to talk about that, passwordless authentication, setup authentication, using conditional access policy. All of these are features from Azure AD. I don't need to implement these functionalities myself. They are integrated with the Microsoft Identity Platform that natively will take basically advantage of such innovations. So I don't have to worry about building this in my own application. So I will just, because I'm using the Microsoft Identity Platform, I will get this kind of by default. And yeah, that's really a great feature. Talking about OAuth and OpenID protocols. So basically, OAuth, it's going to take care of the authorization part and the OpenID with the authentication. Here in this diagram that we can see here. So what I will have is I have there the Authorization Server, which is basically the endpoint for the Microsoft Identity. It's responsible to ensure, okay, that the user's identities, they are what they seem to be, so the authentication part, to also do the grant, revoke access to resources, to issue tokens, and basically also we also talk about that Authorization Server is also known typically as an identity provider. Then we have the resource owner, typically the end user, okay? So it's the party that owns the data and has the power to allow third parties to access the data or resources. I have the OAuth client, which is basically your application. It's identified by the application ID, and the OAuth client is usually the party that the end user interacts with, and it requests tokens from the Authorization Server. The client must then be granted permissions to access resources by the resource owner. The resource server is where the resource or data resides. It trusts the Authorization Server, so the identity provider, to securely authenticate and authorize the OAuth client. It uses bare access tokens to ensure that, well, the access to a resource can or not be granted. So all of this process starts where? It starts by us doing an app registration. So I need to go to the Azure AD. I get to my app registration window, and in here I can do the app registration. I just need to provide a name. I need to say what supported account types will I need to for this, and then if that's optional, the last bit over there, to do the redirect URI. And when you do this, you're going to get an app ID, then you can create a secret, and well, those two things, you can then code your application. After you have your application up and running, so this will be kind of the process. So you have your browser, then a user navigates to your web application, okay? I'll go to the web server. Then the web server says, well, you know, I don't have here, and you don't send me any tokens, so I don't know who you are. And of course, because I don't know who you are, I don't have here also any permissions for you. So it will just basically redirect the user to Azure AD, providing the client ID. And then the user enters those credentials. Basically, his username, his password. You might need to consent those permissions if it is the first time, because the app, you can also say on the application that, oh, this application will have this, and this permission. And like allowing the Microsoft Graph to access your calendar, your email, or whatever, Teams, whatever it's in the Microsoft Cloud. And then, yes, okay, I accept that out, all of that, because it was the first time. So then it redirects the ID token to the browser. Then automatically the browser will redirect that ID token to the redirect URI, which is basically your web application. And then your web application in the web server will validate that token. And then, yes, if it's a valid token, okay, then it will return the page for the user, a page that is a secure page. So basically, it is a page that was under protection. And that basically, that is the flow, okay, the sign-in flow. New requests, well, it doesn't need to do this anymore because you already have that ID. And so you would just basically request, and your request will also send that token, and yeah, basically it will not redirect you anymore to Azure AD until, well, you have this has a expiration time. That token usually lasts for 4 hours, but of course after 4 hours, yes, it will just do the same thing because your token has expired. So with all of this, let's just do an Azure AD app registration, and let's see how easy it is just to do this registration. So let's do an app registration. So in order to do an app registration, we just need first to open the Azure Active Directory blade. And when we are in the Azure Active Directory blade, we can just search under Managed. We have an option that says App Registration. So if we just click there, and now I can just do a new registration. I can also check, of course, well, the registrations that I already have here, but I'll just go for a new registration blade. We need to provide what is the name for our application, and I'll just call this application AZ Videos Demo. And now the second bit here is the supported account types. So like we saw before, so we can have Azure AD users, or we can even say, no, I also want like users like we have here with personal Microsoft accounts like Outlook.com, Skype, Xbox, so all of those. Or I can even say, no, I just want personal accounts. Well, In my case, I'll just go for the default, which is I just want Azure AD users from this directory. Let's imagine that this is basically an application that only my corporate users will use. So yeah, I don't need more than that. Then the last bit here, as optional, we have this redirect URI. So this will return the authentication response to that URI. So after it successfully authenticate the user, we'll then redirect, okay, the user in here. In my case, well, I'm just not going to do this bit, but you can even later, if you need, you can even tweak this because URL of your application change or something. So that's even possible to do later. So I'll just click register, and there you go. So now I have my application here is fully registered. You can under manage, you can do some branding on your application. So you can see here, okay, what is the name of your application? You can upload a logo for your application, one page URL, terms of services. So a lot of things that, yeah, we can tweak in here. Important is this bit here, the certificates and secrets. So in order now for me to build an application, I will need two things, the application ID and a secret. So I can click here and I can say, hey, I want a new secret. And I'll just say here, okay, demo secret, for example. And I'll just say, oh, expires in 1 or 2 years or never. It's a choice that you have. I'll just say 1 year. And there you go. I have now here my my secret. You have to copy this right away, okay, and then, well, store this in a safe way, of course, because if I just go to another blade and I'll come back to the secrets blade, okay, and if we refresh the page, you will see that the secret, it's no longer being shown in here. It's masked. So because it is masked, well, you just can't see it again. So we can always create a new one and delete this one if you wish, but that's it, okay? You cannot see this one nevermore. So this is one of the things that you need if you're using like ASP.NET web application, for example, and you want to basically your application to be registered in here. So you need this secret, and of course in the overview blade you have here this application ID, okay? So this bit here is something that, yes, you're also going to need. So those are the two things that you're going to need, and basically doing a registration is essentially this. Of course, now I can go to API permissions, and if you want to reach, for example, the Microsoft Graph, I can click here, add permissions. You can say, yeah, okay, like Microsoft Graph, and then you have here basically really a lot of options, okay, like calendars. Oh yes, I can read my calendar. I want to read my calendar, and you can just click add permissions, and there you go. Okay, now this permission has also been added to this application. And of course, look, if you click here, add a permission, you can see there is a bunch more of other places that you can integrate with this. So it's a little bit of how to explore all of this, but usually most of the times, yeah, the Microsoft Graph is a very popular choice. So but this is it. This is how we can do some app registrations. When doing authentication and authorization using the Microsoft Identity Platform, there are several concepts that are important to understand. So we bring you here what is OAuth, OpenID Connect, and also SAML, and what are the differences between them. So OAuth, it's basically an authorization, is used for authorization. When we have OpenID Connect, it's what we use to do the authentication of a service principal. Then we have SAML. Well, SAML, it's also used as a different type of authentication that I can do. And both OpenID Connect and SAML are used to authenticate users and to enable single sign-on. So they will do the same features there. Talking about Azure Active Directory. So Azure AD, it's a cloud-based identity service. It is built to support for synchronizing with your existing on-prem Active Directory, so the traditional Active Directory from on-prem, or it can also be used as standalone identity service, so you don't need to connect this with anything. This means that all your applications, if they are on-prem, or they are in the cloud, or you're talking about Office 365 also, for example, or even a mobile application, they will all share the same credentials. So administrators, developers can control the access to internal and external data and applications using centralized rules, centralized policies that we just configured them on Azure AD. Some of the features, we have them here on the slide, like authentication. I can do single sign-on. I can do application management. So we saw I can do basically app registrations. I can also do and use features like Azure AD application proxy in order to access on-prem applications. I can have business-to-business identity. I can have business-to-consumer. And I can also do device management. So I can basically do the, and with this I can do endpoint protection and things like that. So all of this is great, and we have single sign-on. That probably is like the most cool feature that I can have with all of this, because as more identities as I give to my users, the greater is the risk for having credential-related security incidents. They will, let's just say, take note of those passwords in post-its. They will share them. They will put them in their phones and things like that. Because let's face it, if you have one identity, okay, it's your responsibility to memorize. But sometimes you have like 10, 15, 16, 20 different IDs and passwords. And users will tend, okay, to have a difficult time in memorizing and understanding all the complexity requirements and all of that in all of those identities. So in theory, that might be great. As like, oh, it's like a different password for every single service. So it's in theory, it seems to be secure, but then in practical, it's not in the real world, because people, yeah, they will just take note of that. So with single sign-on, users, they basically just need to memorize one password and one ID, and then they can just use that in all the applications. Azure ID, then we'll combine all this with security threat analytical tools, real-time risks. So there is a lot of protection in all of this. So now it's time to do a demo, and let's do a demo on how can we create multi-factor authentication together with conditional access policies. In order to do this, I'm just going to try to access the Azure portal using this account, which is MFA at, you know, my domain. So there you go. And if I try to access, okay, with this account, you will see that, hey, do you want to stay sign in? Yes. And there you go. I had access, okay, to the Azure portal. There were no questions being asked around if I need to provide any add-on factor or something like that. Nothing. I just gone in. I don't want this. I want to fix this. I want every time that I access this special application that I need to be asked for multi-factor authentication. So in order to do this, let's just close this here. And I'm now in the Azure portal here, where I'm the administrator of this Azure AD tenant. I can go to conditional access policies, and I can create a new conditional access policy. And let's just call this one Azure portal. I can say, and I can specify here which users I want basically to that they need, okay, to fulfill this policy. So I could just say all the users or selected users and groups, and just select certain groups. So in my case, I'm just going to select one special user, which is this MFA. Again, this is just a demo, so I'm just going to do for that specific user. But in a real life, you could do for a group of users, or even for all the users that you have on your Azure AD. Then look, I can go to Cloud Apps and Actions, and I need to select here that I want a special application, okay? Which is, if we just search for Azure, we see this Microsoft Azure Management. If you have applications that are custom applications that you create them and you did an app registration, they will also show on that list. So you can do this not only for the Azure or the Office 365 applications, but you can also do this for regular custom applications that you build. Then I can go to conditions, and you see here there's like plenty of things here, like locations, device platforms. I can only like allow this from iOS or Android. I don't allow the other ones. So there's also a lot of other things in here that I can do. But my demo is simple. I'm just going to grant, and I'm just going to say I grant the access, but I require, okay, multi-factor authentication. Then you cannot forget to enable here the policy, and then you click create. So now basically my policy has been created. If I try, okay, to access this again and with the same user, so there you go, portal.azure.com, and I just say, hey, MFA, then I just drop here the rest of the user account, and I press next. Standard thing now. I've been called about what is the password. I click sign in, and now what happens now, it is asking me for a code. So right now what I have to do is, in my case here, I'm using, and this account is configured to use the Microsoft Authenticator App. So I can go to the Authenticator App, and I need to grab, okay, the code that is currently showing there, which is a 6-digit code, and that changes, okay, every 30 seconds. So I'm just going to do this. This is the code that I'm seeing right now, and I will click verify. And now, yeah, the traditional stuff. Do you want to stay signed in? And there you go. Now I'm logged in into the Azure portal. So you could see how cool it is to configure MFA, and it's like super simple. You saw it's just going to conditional access policies and, well, create the conditional access policy that you want. But we clearly increase a lot the security of our applications by just requiring MFA, but only requiring MFA in certain conditions. I can also provide identities to services. So it's usual that that some services, okay, will have identities. There is a huge feature in Azure today that's called managed identities. So I can create a system assigned managed identity for a resource. Let's imagine I have a virtual machine, I have an app service, and I have a storage account. So I can basically give an identity to that, let's imagine, virtual machine. Now I can have code running inside that machine that I just need to say invoke the managed identity, and that's it. You don't need to say which managed identity, just need to say it's the system assigned managed identity, and then yes, you can give role-based access control permissions to your managed identity in other Azure resources. And when you do that, this will just work, and there is no need for certificates. There's no need to store keys. There's no need to store passwords, certificates, whatever. It's just going to be much easier to set up this, but we still maintain a very tight security with all of this. Even increase the security, because there is no need to share those secrets, those passwords in the application. So it will even increase the security level of all of this. Then we also have the basically working with the Microsoft Authentication Library. So with this, I can reach stuff like, for example, the Microsoft Graph. The Microsoft Graph is basically a REST API that enable me to access all the resources on the Microsoft Cloud. This expose Office 365 services like Delve, Excel, Bookings, Teams, OneDrive, Outlook, Planner, SharePoint, OneDrive, you name it. But also gets to places like enterprise mobility services, advanced threat analytics, Azure AD, identity management, Intune, Windows 10 services for the devices, notifications. So there's like a lot that I can reach with the Microsoft Graph. In order to start to, let's just see, check the capabilities of this and understanding a little bit better what we can do with the Microsoft Graph, I always like to show and just invite everyone, just check out the Microsoft Graph Explorer. It seems like basically a tool to do REST calls, but yeah, but it's exactly that, but only does, of course, REST calls for the Microsoft Graph. So it's a great tool. If you prefer to use tools like Postman, for example, yeah, you can also use that. And there are even great articles online about how using Postman together with the Microsoft Graph. So you can even use Postman instead of the Graph Explorer if you prefer to do so. And then there is basically quick starts, and there is a lot of documentation around this on how to code for .NET, Android, Python, React, for iOS, Node.js, you name it. Okay, so basically all the major development platforms and languages, they're there, and they have SDKs, well, to basically use the Microsoft Graph. So you can code in every language basically, and just use that one to get to the Microsoft Graph. So now let's talk about securing Azure storage solutions. So authorization options on Azure storage accounts, I can just have my, let's just say, blob storage service as public access. I can create a container. I can just say, hey, it's public access, and well, basically it's public access. You just can get access. So there is no need for authentication. We're just using anonymous client. Then I can also say Azure AD. So there is several ways to integrate this with Azure Active Directory. So you can use managed identities, you can use users, groups, etc., and do role-based access control based on Azure AD identity. I can use shared keys. So Azure Storage creates two 512-bit access keys for every storage account. I can use those keys to basically grant access to the storage account. But be careful, because those keys grant anyone with access the equivalent of like root access to your storage. Basically, you can do everything with those keys. So it is recommended, if you want to use the keys, that you store those keys using Azure Key Vault. And then you can easily rotate the keys on a regular schedule, like every month you just rotate the keys. So you use key 2 now, and then you regenerate key 1, and then 1 month later you just switch to key 1 and you regenerate key 2, and so on. But I can also use shared access signatures. So SAS lets you grant granular access to files on your Azure storage. This control can include the level of access, like read-only, read and write, and I can set also expiration times for my shared access signature. So if it is expired, well, all the authorization that I gave you with this, it's no longer possible. Talking about shared access signature, so we have 3 types: user delegation, service SaaS, and account SaaS. So account SaaS is what I was talking about. So I can just do this at the storage account level, and then yeah, I can reach basically everything. Then I have service SaaS, that I can secure basically just a specific service, like blob or queue storage or table storage or even files. And then I have user delegation SaaS, that's secured with Azure AD credentials and can be used only on Azure Blob Storage. Talking about the Sas Token, so what is the Sas Token? So you have the first bit there in blue, that's the storage account URI. So it's basically the name of your storage account, .blob.core.windows.net / the name of the container, and then / the name of the blob. In our case, sample blob.txt. And then I have question mark, SV, and all of that bit there. That's what we call the Sas token. So what you need to do is you just need to generate that Sas token, and then you just need to attach that Sas token as a suffix for the storage resource URI, and then yes, basically you're going to get access to that. So now it's time to do a demo, and let's do a demo on how can we create a service SaaS for a container or blobs using .NET. Okay, so first step of our demo, it will be creating your storage account. So I'll just create here a demo storage account. I'll just say, yeah, on the AZ videos, I'll just call it AZ videos SaaS demo. And hopefully this is available. So we're just going to create this storage account. Then in this storage account, I'm just going to create a container that will be a private container. There you go. So let's just go to our resource, containers, create a container, and I'll just call this images, for example. I then will just upload here some demo images. Let me just select here some basically some images that I have here. So there you go. There you go. Those are fine. And I'll just upload this. There you go. So we have some images in here. And now if we go to the resource, we go to access key, so we'll have here a bunch of information that we need to use. But first, we need to go to Visual Studio, create a new project, and yeah, console application. Let's just call this AZ videos SaaS demo. And let's just create our application. We'll just wait a second for this to create. There you go. So now in my program, the first thing that I need to do is let's just manage Nuget packages. And let's just browse here and search for storage. And we have this Azure storage blobs, and let's just use the stable version of this, and let's just install this Nuget package. So there's some prereqs. We just say okay, and it should be good now. So right now I need to use here Azure storage. I also need then I'll need to use Azure .storage.blobs, correct this one, and I also need to use the Azure.storage.blobs.models. So we need to use also this one here. And last one that I still need to use, it's the Azure.storage.Sas, because we're going to deal with Sas tokens, and this is where those classes are. Let's just tweak this here. So let's just change this yellow world to something more meaningful. Azure Storage Sas demo. And then I already have here, okay, kind of some code that I will explain. So this here, it's basically a private static string function that I have, that in here, like you can see, okay, I will have this builder, okay, for the Sas. I'm just saying, hey, that's the where I want to do the Sas. I want that resource, which is for blobs, and I want this with an expiration time of just 1 minute. Then I'll just say I want to read permissions for this, and in here, okay, I have the shared key credential. So in this bit here, I need to put the key, and I also need to put the name of my storage account. So let's just take care of this so that we are sure that everything is good with this. So here it will be the name of our storage account, and then I'll just click show keys, and in here I will just use one of my keys. So that bit, it is done. Here I will just need to do and create a reference to my blob container client. I'll just call this as like container, for example, and I'll just say that this is new blob container client, and then in here I will just pass my connection string that I can take it from here. And there you go, and I forgot to add this in the end. There you go. So that bit here should be good. Sorry, no, I forgot to say the name of the container. That in our case it's images. There you go. Now it is okay. So I have that bit there. Now I can do here, like for example, for each, okay, blob, let's just say blob item, okay, and let's just call this blob item in container dot get blobs, blobs. So this is what I want to do. Yes. Now in here, so what I will do is I'll just do a blob client. So blob client, I'll just call it like blob, for example, equals to my container. So let's just write container, and let's just search for container. Yeah, because I didn't call it container here. Okay, let's just type container. There you go. Okay, dot get blob client, and I'll just pass here what is my blob item dot name, and there you go. Now I can just do here console dot write line, and in this dot line, like I can just say here, oh, what's the blob? Okay, and I'll just say blob item, just to put here the name of that blob. Okay, so there you go, and I will just choose the property name. I can also do another one. I could have done this just in one, but let's just leave it like this. I'll just say here, okay, what is the Sas token? And now it's where all will make sense here. So I'll just say that this, and I'll just call that get blob Sas, and I'll just pass my blob to call that. And let's just review this. It seems to be all good. And if we save this, and if we do Control F5 in order to run this, so you can see it in here, and there you go. Okay, so we can see here Azure Storage Sas token. We have like this picture here, Azure Heroes, and bam, we have the Sas token for that. And we have the other one, and we have the Sas token, and the other one, the Sas token, and basically so on. So you get here this. Of course, now we just needed to tweak this example a little bit more in order to just basically put the URL of our blob, question mark, Sas token, bam, you could just get there, and there's no more authentication. The Sas token will take care of that. So this is how easy it is to build this, and you see, doesn't take that much code in order to do something like this. So some of the best practices around Sas tokens will be always use HTTPS so that you can securely distribute your Sas tokens. Try to always use user delegation Sas. It's the most secure one. Try to have a very, very tiny expiration time. Don't use, like sometimes we see like 1 year, 2 years, and I'm like, no, no way. So try to be like the minimal possible useful value that you have. Always apply the rule of the minimal required privilege. So if you don't need read, or let's just say you just need read access, you don't need write access, just don't give write access. And of course, create a middle tier service to manage users and also the access to the storage. So let's just do a demo where we're going to use shared access signatures to delegate access to storage. So now let's create a storage account, and also let's create a container and then a small application to interact with that storage account. So for this, I'm just going here to the Cloud Shell, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to create here a storage account. So AZ storage account, create, and I pass here a name for this. I'll just call it medical records TCO, for example. Then I put an access tier for this. It will be auth. I also will pass here the kind of this, and I'll just say storage v2. It will be the kind that I want, and I want this in the resource group AZ videos. If I do this, so now this will create my storage account, and I think I need to fix here something, which is, oh yeah, this is not or, it's auth. And this will then create our storage account. So let's just wait here a little bit for this to be created. And there you go. So now under this storage account, I will just create a container. So I'll just do this, and this will be patient images. Okay, that will be the name of the container, and the account name, let me just copy here our account name. Okay, and then I'll just say public access to off. And if we do this, we're going to create that. And let's just see here, I think I'm missing a C in here. There you go. So this has been created. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to clone here a pre-made application that interacts with pictures, basically. And then what I'm going to do is, this already comes with a bunch of images in here. So I will do here a blob, upload a batch of images over there. So my source is Sas. My destination will be my patient. Okay, images, and then the account. Oops, the account name. It will be medical records TCO, and I will do a pattern in here. And the pattern will, I want to upload, okay, JPEG. So let's just check this. AZ storage blob, upload batch, source, destination, patient images to that account, that pattern. So let's just do this. There you go. It uploaded some pictures over there. Okay, so I have the application here locally. And let me just open this in here. Local dot. There you go. So first of all, now what I need to do is I need to go to this app settings that I have here, and of course replace this with, well, some of the data that I have here. And of course this is the connection string, so I'll just replace the connection string with that value. This is called medical records TCO, and I can go to the here to the storage account, and I can grab the key and drop the key in here. So that piece here is done. So now that we have done that, I can easily go to my console here, to my terminal, and under my terminal, which I don't need to be in the bash, I can just use here the command prompt, and let me see. Yes, that's where I want to be. I can just do .NET run in order to basically run our application, and let's see what happens. There you go, and yep, my application now, it is running. And if we grab here the application and I click get all patients, okay, yeah, we can see here basically our JPEGs that we have in here. Now we just need to do some tweaks here to really see the picture. So let's just close this. Let's just do Control C to cancel this. And now under controllers, I go to the Patientrecordcontroller.cs, and in here I can find the method that says patient record. Okay, so this is my patient records controller, and let's find, okay, this HTTP get name and then secure. So, and in here I'll just add another one that will be this one here. So the name plus secure, and I'll just do that. This method here returns the requested patient image with the SAS, but now I need this get, okay, blob client. So I need to create basically that, okay, that method now. So let's just do that. I can just do this straight away in here. Is not, like I said, ideal, but for basically as a demo, it is okay. And if we see this here, this method uses the past blob client object, and then it creates the blob SAS builder. This will generate the SAS that is a read-only and expires in 1 minute. Okay, so basically this is what we are doing with this bit. So let's just save this. Now if I go to pages, and if I want this, open this external page here, I just need now to find here the basically the script, which is this button get key. Okay, and I'll just add this in here. So I just do this here, and there you go. Let me just copy this again. There you go. Okay, so there you go. So now, yeah, I have this here, and this jQuery code will add a client listener for the button get key, and this code will execute the AJAX call, the new secure URL, then we'll give the and show the pictures. Okay, so we can close all of this, and now I can call again .NET run. Let's see if this works. It worked perfectly, and let's just do a call now. So let me just drag this here. I can get patients in here, and let's imagine this one here. I'll just copy this, and if I just say, hey, I want this one, get the key. So see, the key worked, and now I can click view the scan, and there you go. Okay, I'm able to view that that scan. You can do this for others, and yeah, it will be very, very similar what you're expecting in here. And we do this with basically the Sas token, and it's not that hard. When using Azure Active Directory to authenticate users, there are also some best practices. Give each app service its own permission and consent. Configure each app service app with its own registration, so its own app registration, and avoid permission sharing between environments by using separated app registrations. So if you have development, you have an app registration. If you have production, you will have a different app registration for that. So this will basically help prevent issues from affecting production applications. So role-based access control, or RBAC, it's basically the bread and crumb of all the authorizations that we do in the Azure management layer. So we always going to have a role, and that role will have a set of permissions. Then we're going to have a scope, and that scope in the Azure infrastructure could be a specific resource, it can be a resource group, a subscription, or a management group. And then, well, I already have a role, I already have a scope where that role is going to be applied. Now I need a service principal, and that service principal can be, for example, a user, it can be a group of users, it can be an app registration, managed identity. So there are just examples of possible service principals that we have in here. Then we need to do something that is called the role assignment, which is I will get a role, I will get a scope, and then a service principal, and I will do the assignment. So let's give an example here. I have a user, let's call it user A. Under the resource RG1 will have the role of contributor. So that means that it will be able to create, delete, managed resources on that resource group. If you're talking about in another resource group, well, it might not even see the other resource group in the same subscription because he only has access to the scope of that resource group. Role-based access control, it's great, but it's even better if we use this together with other Azure AD P2 features, like, for example, privilege identity management. So with privilege identity management, I'm able to audit role members, I can track changes, I can track when it was given those permissions, by whom, and I can even do access reviews for the roles so that, well, why do we have too many global administrators? Why do we have so many persons with contributor access at that specific scope on that subscription, and things like this, so that all this together will definitely improve the security of our solution. For many organizations, data is definitely the most valuable asset that they have. So keeping that data safe, it's a crucial requirement. Usually we need to make sure that that's not accessed to or by other corporations or unauthorized users within the company too. So using encryption serves as the last and the strongest line of defense in the layered security strategy, because even if someone stole that data, for example, the data, it is encrypted. So, well, they have the data, but they cannot read the data. So encryption, what is encryption, right? So encryption is the process of making data unreadable and unusable for the unauthorized viewers. So in order for you to read the encrypted data, you first must to decrypt that data. And decrypting the data requires the use of a secret key. We usually have two types of encryption, which is symmetric and asymmetric keys. And symmetric encryption, they use the same key to encrypt and decrypt the data. When we use asymmetric encryption, we use the public key and a private key pair. Either key can encrypt, but a single key can't decrypt its own encrypted data. So to decrypt, you need the paired key. This is very used in the transport layer, like when we use TLS under HTTPS. When we talk about symmetric keys, we are usually talking about data at rest. It's usually where we are more going to use this. So symmetric keys are used at encryption at rest, and asymmetric encryption, it's more used when we are talking about encryption in transit, like TLS through HTTP, when we're doing HTTP calls, etc. So talking about encryption, but now encryption on Azure. So we can talk about encrypting raw storage, and we have the Azure Storage Service encryption for data at rest that will help us to protect our data in order to meet like an organizational security compliance, market regulation compliance, something like that. With this feature, the Azure Storage Platform, they will take care of automatically encrypt your data before persisting it into an Azure managed disk, into blob storage, into Azure files, Azure queues, Azure tables. And then it will decrypt the data before retrieval. The handling of the encryption at rest, the decryption, the keys can be managed, okay, automatically by Azure. So they use what we call a Microsoft managed key, which is unique per storage account, but it is totally taken care by Microsoft. You don't have to worry about that. We can also encrypt virtual hard disks. So the storage service encryption also provides what we call low-level encryption protection for the data that is stored on a physical disk. But how you protect your virtual hard disks on virtual machines if a malicious attack gains access to the subscription and just copies the VHD? How can you handle that? Well, we can do Azure Disk Encryption, which is the capability to encrypt your Windows and Linux infrastructure as a service virtual machine disks. So the disk encryption will use BitLocker for Windows or the DMCrypt feature for Linux, and both will provide volume encryption for the operating system and the data disks. This solution can be, of course, integrated with Azure Key Vault, and Azure Key Vault will take care and will help and control to manage the disk encryption keys and secrets that you have there. Then we talk about encrypting databases. So when we talk about databases, we talk about TDE, Transparent Data Encryption. And we have TDE in most of the managed database services like Azure SQL databases, MySQL, Postgre, MariaDB. So all of those will have TDE. They are TDE enabled. So TDE helps protect Azure SQL databases or even Azure Synapse, for example, against the threat of malicious activity. It performs real-time encryption and decryption of the database, of the backups, of the transaction logs at rest. And the best thing is you do not need to change any code. You can tweak this, you can configure this in an existing database, and there is nothing on the clients, on custom applications that you have that you need to tweak. Okay, so this only happens on the service. TDE encrypts the storage of the database using a symmetric key that we call it a database encryption key. And of course, I can use the Microsoft managed key for this, or I can bring my own key. And if you do the bring your own key, you can also integrate this with Azure Key Vault. And then we can also encrypt secrets. So sometimes we have secrets that we need to store and we want them encrypted. So in order for us to do this, we can use a service like Azure Key Vault. And Azure Key Vault will store, and it can just act as a centralized location for your secrets, and it has plenty of features. One of them is to encrypt, okay, all the secrets that you store under the Azure Key Vault. And of course, it has other features like basically access policies so that you make sure that only authorized users will have access to the Key Vault. But mainly the one that we want to talk about right now, it's the one about encryption. We're talking about encryption here. We're going to have to talk about Key Vault in just a moment, where we're going to expand a little bit what it is and how can we use it. So now let's talk about implementing secure cloud solutions. So we talk about what is Azure App Configurations. So basically, Azure App Configuration, it's an Azure service that in a centralized way, I can manage application settings and feature flags. So modern applications today, especially when running in the cloud, they have many components that are by nature distributed. Spreading configuration settings across those components can lead to hard troubleshooting errors, or security concerns. The use of app configurations to store all those settings for your applications in just one place will really simplify the way on how to use this, because when we change a configuration value, well, if we change in just one place, we don't need to change like in every single node of an AKS cluster, for example. Okay, so it is of course much easier to do with this. And of course, then I can connect Azure Functions, web apps, Redis cache, SQL databases, container registry, service fabric. So all of those were example of workloads that, yeah, we can connect with the Azure App Configuration. If we talk about best practices, so in terms of best practices, I can and I have the option to do key grouping. So app configuration provides two options for organizing your keys. It's by key prefix or by labels. Key prefix are the beginning part of the keys, so I can logically group a set of keys by using the same prefix in their names. I also have key value composition, so app configurations treats all the keys stored within independent entities. App configurations doesn't attempt to infer any relationship between keys or to inherit keys values based on their hierarchy. I can aggregate multiple keys, however, by using labels coupled with the proper configuration, stacking in my application code. Also, other cool things that I have here: reduce requests made to the app configuration. You add latency on this. If you just get the app configuration, it's done. You don't need to keep coming here, and every time that you need to use that configuration, try to cache that in your application. Import configuration data into the app configuration, and also try to use the multi-region deployment in app configuration. That will also help a lot with latency, because you're going to have app configuration deployed to the regions where your applications are also deployed. Use the app configuration. I can use this with basically several languages and several frameworks. So if I'm talking about .NET Core or ASP.NET Core, I can provide the app configuration provider for .NET Core. If you're using .NET or ASP, we have the configuration builder for .NET. Java Spring, we have the client for JavaScript, and others. You should use the app configuration REST API that we have to do this. So with this, let's just do a demo, and in this demo we're going to talk about ASP.NET Core app with the Azure app configurations. Okay, so let's build an app configuration. So let's create a resource. and we type app configuration, select the create option, and I'm now going to choose the AZ videos resource group, and I will just call this AZ videos app config. And let's see if this is available. It is available. Then I can choose the standard or the free. So one or the other we can choose. I'll go for the standard. In this case, I go for review and create, and I will click then create. So this will basically create our app configuration. So now let's just wait a few seconds for this to be finished. Here we go. It is finished, and we have our app configuration here. I can just go straight to Configuration Explorer, and I can just add here some key values on this. So the first one that I will add here, it will be like test app, settings, background color, and I'll just put here background color. Then I will add another one called font color, which I'm going to choose that. I want this in black. And the next one will be about the font size. Let's just do 24 for this. And I still want to add a last one, which is called a message. So test app settings message. And I'll just drop here like data from Azure App configuration. So this will be here my message. So I already have an app configuration. I have some random key values that I had it in here. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to create basically a .NET application. Okay, so I'm just going to, let's just create here a folder. I'll just call this AZ videos demo. Then I can just do this AZ videos demo. There you go. And so now I can just do .NET, new MVC, no HTTPS, and then I want the output of this to be called test app config. And yes, I need to fix this in here. So there you go. So no HTTPS, and yeah, there it seems to be okay. So let's create this. So this is creating our project. So now I can also initiate here the user secrets. So user secrets init. There you go. So .NET. Yeah, sorry. I'm missing here our folder. There you go. So there you go. This is done. So now I can just open Visual Studio Code. For example, on this, I can check if my app here, yes, it is good. I don't need this. So this is the added secrets that I have from there. So now I can just basically open here the terminal. I'm in the correct folder. So now I can do .NET add package. Microsoft. Let's just remove this from here. Microsoft Azure app configuration. ASP.NET Core. So this is basically going to add this package. The package has been added. So now I will just run the user secrets. And what I'm going to do is set to the connection strings, and I'll just call this app config. And now I need to add here my connection string. So let me just go back in here, I need to go to access keys. And if I say show the values, hey, I copy the connection string, and now I just need to drop the connection string in here. So .NET user secrets set, okay, and then I have connection string. Let me just fix this. I have like the plural there. So connection string app config. There you go. So I have added this, okay, to my basically to my secret store. So right now I can just go here to my program.cs. I need to add here this a certain namespace, which is the Microsoft, okay, dot extensions, okay, and dot configuration. It's already there, so I don't need to add it again. It's already here. So that is done. So now I just need to replace here, okay, this create host builder with this code. Basically this here will just sorry, there you go. Let's close this and let me replace this. There you go. So I have replaced this bit of code. So I'm just adding here, okay, my connection string on the app config, and not that much, just a small change so that I can connect this with the app configuration. And then if I just go here to views, home, index, okay, and if we replace this with something like this in here, so we see here I'm just creating here a CSS style hard coded straight away in here. This is just a test. And you see here, oh, the background color will be this, the color will be basically our configuration, font color, font size, and then I will just write here, okay, the message that I have. So I'll just save all of this. I'm just going to type .NET build. This will build our project, and then .NET run, and yeah, there you go. So it is running, and if we put here the application, so you can see, yeah, so a fully working app, and we can see here basically this has 24. We have this grayish, okay, background. So yeah, everything is working as it should. Okay, so if we open here DevTools and we click here, okay, so yeah, we can see basically all the settings in for this. So for this, basically for this element here. So this came from this bit here, okay, came from the app configuration, also the font size, okay, so all okay, and it's working. And you see how easy it is. It's not that hard, okay, to create the configuration. So now let's talk about Azure Key Vault and what it is. Azure Key Vault. So Key Vault help us safeguard cryptographic keys, secrets, and certificates. All these are entities that our cloud applications and services will use. Key Vault help us streamline the key management process and enables to maintain control of keys that will have access or even encrypt our data, like with TDE, with storage, Azure storage keys and things like that. Also, when we're doing custom applications, it is common for us to create keys for developing and then testing, and then we also have others for productions. And of course, security administrators can then grant and revoke permissions to those specific keys when needed, because of course usually the development team doesn't have access to production keys, which is, well, kind of makes sense. So Azure Key Vault is basically a centralized cloud service for storing your application secrets. It helps you control your application secrets by keeping them in a single centralized location, and by providing secure access, secure permissions, and access logging capabilities. So this is great also for the logging capabilities, where you can see what applications are accessing which secrets when and things like that. We have secret management, so I can use Key Vault to securely store, tighten, and control access to tokens, passwords, certificates, API keys, etc. I can do key management, so I can use this to store keys that then it can basically being used to encrypt data at rest or to data in transit, for example. It's a SSL TLS certificate that I can also use this. All those secret certificates and keys, they can be stored and encrypted by using software or by using hardware security modules. That will depend on the tier that you choose. If you choose the standard tier, so that you're going to get software encryption. If you go for the premium tier, you get hardware security modules that will take care of the encryption. So guidelines for using the Key Vault. So first of all, we need to create a vault. And a vault is what we call like a container where we're going to store our keys or secrets, etc. So vaults will help you to reduce the chances of an accidental loss of security information because you centralize the application secret storage. You can have multiple vaults, and it's even recommended for you to have a vault per environment and even sometimes per application, because when we're talking about accessing and creating all the parts on the access layer, we cannot do permissions specifically per a specific key or a specific secret. We do this for secrets, we do this for keys, and well, if you know the URI of a secret, well, you get access to it if you have permissions for it. So you cannot just say, no, only for that specific key. That doesn't exist here. And so that is the reason why we recommend sometimes to have more than one key vault, so that we can have one key vault per app, per environment. We can have keys, so a given key in the key vault is a cryptographic access. We can have hardware or software keys depending on the tier, like I said, and we can have also secrets, and secrets are small, less than 10 KB data blobs that will then be protected by the software or the hardware security module that it's going to protect our Azure Key Vault. Benefits of using this, like I said, well, centralize application to secrets, securely store the secrets and keys, simplify the administration of application secrets. Key Vault makes it much easier to enroll, renew certificates from public certificate authorities, because you just need to do this in the Key Vault, and all the other applications will be connected to that item, and you can just create a new version of the item, and bam, those services will get that. And that's also another great benefit, which is the integration that we have with Key Vault with other Azure services like storage accounts, container registries, event hubs, app services. Okay, so all of this, yeah, it is really very tight. And then Key Vault together with stuff like managed identities, with application registries, and all of that, all this seamlessly working together, it is incredible, okay, what we can do with all of this. How can we manage and access secrets, certificates, and keys? So we have the Key Vault access. So we have to understand that we have two facets here: the management plane and the data plane. So the management plane is, yeah, managing the service. That's role-based access control. If you have access as contributor, yeah, you can just go there and you can manage the service, the settings. But can I manage the secrets? Can I manage keys? No. For that, you need to go to the data plane, and you need to go to access policies and create specific access policies for your users, or if it's a managed identity or an app, to have permissions on that level. Today, okay, this is about to change. It's already in preview. Access policies based on role-based access controls. So management, it's based on role-based access controls, but now the data plane, it's also getting there. And of course, you can also restrict the network access to this. Like, this is a public Azure service, so you get access to this through the internet. But through service endpoints, and by blocking, as you can see there on the bottom right screenshot, just saying that, oh, only a selected network will have access to this. You can make sure that only infrastructure as a service resources, like imagine a virtual machine, will have access to that key vault because it's in a selected subnet that you will say, yeah, I will kind of authorize that subnet to connect here, but then if you go through the internet or if you come from another virtual private network, I will not accept your connections, only the ones that are here in this list. So with all of this, let's just do some 2 demos here. Let's store secrets in an Azure Key Vault, and then let's use Key Vault references in an ASP.NET Core application. So now it's time to integrate Azure Key Vault also with the app configuration. So first we need an Azure Key Vault. So I'll just create here, and I'll just type Key Vault, and I'm just going to create a new Azure Key Vault resource. So under basics, I will just choose here AZ videos as the resource group. Let's just see if AZ videos it is available. Oh, it is available. So we can just click here, review and create, and let's just create our Azure Key Vault. So now creating our Azure Key Vault will take a few seconds, so let's just wait for that to be finished. Here we go. So if I just go to my Azure Key Vault now, I can add a secret, and I'll just click generate and import. I'll just say here, for example, message. And under value, I'll just say yellow. I'll just type this yellow, okay, from Key Vault. If we click here to see it, there you go. That's what we have. And I'll just click create. So right now I have my secret created. Okay, so now I need to go to my app configuration that I created. So let's just go here to this AZ Videos app configuration, and under Configuration Explorer I can create, but now not a Key Vault, but a Key Vault reference. And when I say Key Vault reference, okay, I can just type something like test app settings and then Key Vault message. So this is the Key Vault message, and I can just browse this here, and I can just choose our Key Vault that I have in here. So, and now I will just select, yep, this is the message, yes, and I want, yeah, the latest version. So right now I basically just integrated a secret, okay, with my app configuration. Okay, so this was as easy as doing this. So right now I still need to do some more things. So I now will change the app that we first create for the app configuration also to show, okay, this bit that comes from Key Vault. So in order to do that, I need to create this managed identity here, basically this service principal that I'm going to create, and you will see there I'm going to return some information with this. So let's just wait for it to return. There you go, just a moment for this to return all the stuff. There you go. So right now I can just run this bit here. So this here, what it's going to do is basically going to create basically a policy, okay, access policy into my key vault. So my key vault is called AZ videos, okay, and I'll just copy here, okay, my client ID. So if I just drop this in here, okay, I can just drop the client ID in here, and I can delete this. And now if you see this, I'll have secret permissions of delete, get, list, set, key permissions. You see here some other stuff also around key permissions. So doing this, I'll just get the that setting done. So I also have the access policies for this. So now that I have done that, let me get back here to Visual Studio Code. Okay, and under Visual Studio Code, I can create here some basically some environmental variables, and one is going to be Azure and then client ID. Okay, so set X, set the variable client ID, and I will add here, okay, my client ID. There you go. Then I will do the same thing, but now Azure underscore client secret, and I will add the client secret that I can get from here. Just look for this. I have here the secret. So let me just copy this, and then I can just drop this in here. And then last but not the least, I have one more, that is the tenant ID. So I need to grab, okay, the tenant ID here. So this will be my tenant ID. So there you go. So I have those 3 environmental variables created. Right now, I need to add a package. So .NET add package, and it's the package Azure.Identity. So this will add the identity Nuget package into my project. And after I have done that, I can go to my program. I can replace this code with this. So this here, what it's going to do is basically going to use, okay, the create web hoster builder, and I'm just doing this a little bit different. And of course, for this to work, I still need to use here using Azure .identity. Okay, just see if this fixes the problems. And so now with this, I'm just basically connecting this with also my key vault. So there you go. So now this is done. Let's just save this, and now just here on the index, okay, so let me just add something here, like, and then let's just do configuration, okay, and I will just pass here basically test app settings, okay, and then key vault message. So this settings key vault message. So this should be good. Now let's just do here .NET build, and then there you go, .NET run, and there you go. If we now just click here to open this, okay, so there you go. So we see here data from Azure App Configuration, and yellow, okay, from the key vault. So we see this, yeah, fully working, and you saw how easy it is to just use also the key vault integrated with the app configuration. So in Azure, we can have service certificates that they are attached to cloud services and enable secure communication to and from the service. Let's just give an example. You deploy a website, you want to supply a certificate that can authenticate to an exposed HTTPS endpoint. So service certificates, which are defined at your service definition, are automatically deployed to the virtual machine that is running an instance of your role. You can upload service certificates to Azure either by using the Azure portal or by using the classic deployment model. Service certificates are associated with a specific cloud service. They are assigned to deployment in the service definition. When we're talking about management certificates, basically we allow you to authenticate with a classic deployment model. Many programs and tools like Visual Studio, Azure SDK, they use those certificates to automate configuration and deployment of various Azure services. But of course, we can also integrate this directly with Azure Key Vault. Azure Key Vault manages X509 based certificates that can come from different sources. First, I can create a self-sign certificate directly from the portal, so directly from the Azure Key Vault. I can also basically upload, okay, an existing certificate from a trusted certificate issuer, and I can upload that also for there. So it's called the import certificate. So we have basically those two big options here, and of course then I can connect my application with the Key Vault and use that Key Vault certificate to connect to other services. So with no more time to lose, let's just do a demo where I'm exactly going to do that. I'm going to import a certificate into Azure Key Vault. So let's import a certificate into a Key Vault. So first of all, well, we need a Key Vault. So let's just search here for Key Vault and let's create an Azure Key Vault. I'll just choose, I want my AZ videos, and I'll just say AZ videos Key Vault as the name. And then on the pricing tier, I can choose standard or premium, where premium, like you see there, I'm going to be backed by hardware security modules. In my case, for the purpose of this demo, basically the standard will be enough. Then I'll go for the access policies. I'm not going to tweak anything in here. Network, same thing. So I'll just go straight to review and create, and I will click create. So now this is going to create our Azure Key Vault, and you see how easy it is just to create a Key Vault. So it's not a big deal on how to create a Key Vault. So now let's just wait here a second for our Key Vault to be created. That it is done now, and we can go to the resource. So in here I can now populate keys, secrets, and also certificates. So today we're here to talk about certificates, so let's just go. Let's generate and import a certificate. But like I said in the beginning, we don't want to generate a certificate, right? We want to import a certificate. So I'll just call this demo cert, and I will just search here, okay, my local files, and I will search for this demo cert.pfx, and then I will basically just type the basically the key that I'm using here, and there you go. Okay, we have here in under 2 minutes, okay, we have here an Azure Key Vault created, and also certificate fully created, fully imported, that now of course, look, they can incorporate and integrate this with other applications like Azure App Services, etc. So we have seen several tools and ways to secure your applications. But of course, protecting your network, it's essential so that you can not get attacks or unauthorized access. We talk about the layered approach to network security, and all of that can start by having DDoS protection, so that only valid traffic will get to your infrastructure. We have two types. So it's basic or standard, which I kindly recommend you to go to standard, because basic only has basic protection, and the features that you have, and the type of volume of attacks that it can handle, it's really really small. So it's good for development environments and things like that, but not more than that. Also, Azure Firewall, it's a managed firewall, so it's also important to have basically the firewall will grant server access based on originating IP for each one of the requests, destination IP, what kind of request is being made on the application level, and things like that. I can also do the Azure Application Gateway together with the WAF, which is the Web Application Firewall. Protects against most common known vulnerabilities in websites, like cross scripting holes, stuff like SQL injection. And of course, also you can always have network virtual appliance to block or allow certain bits of traffic on your network. So all of this, it's really important to have in order for you to control the traffic that gets to your network, gets out of your network. So all of this, it's something that, yeah, it is important to have. Protecting shared documents. So we also have Microsoft Azure Information Protection, which is a cloud-based solution to help organizations classify and optionally protect documents and emails by applying labels. Those labels can even be applied automatically based on rules, conditions that you might have. So it's also something that, yes, it's something that you should consider. Also, we also have Azure Advanced Threat Protection, which is a cloud-based security solution. This will identify, it will detect, and will help investigating advanced threats compromising identities, malicious insider actions. So it is also a very cool product that we can use. We have the ATP portal, which I can then monitor. I can respond to suspicious activity. But all of that just using the ATP portal, which is portal.atp.azure.com. Some considerations for application lifecycle management solutions. Provide training. Of course, look, it's always important to provide training, because security, it's not just the job of the security team. It's everyone's job within the company, starting of course by the IT department, developers, service engineers, program managers, security engineers, basically Windows administrators, everyone, but also from the business user side, because they are on the endpoint, and they also need to have a good practice in figuring out, this is a suspicious email. Maybe it's phishing. Maybe I can report it as phishing. Define security requirements, perform threat modeling, use approved tools. When you're building your applications, really checking the sources of some of the package that you're using, or some of the base images if you're doing container approach. So it is, again, always important to do all of that. One of the coolest features that we have that will really increase a lot the security of our code is managed identities, because we have a common challenge when we're building cloud applications. It's how can I manage credentials, and this has always been a thing, right? It's like, yeah, I can drop the connection string like in a web config. Yeah, it works great, but I really never found that this is not secure. So we really need to have a better way to do this. So ideally, we don't want any developer workstation to host credentials. So a good way to use this is, okay, I can put my credentials like we saw on the Key Vault. Yeah, great, it will work. It works pretty well, but I still need to authenticate to Key Vault to retrieve them. So the managed identity for Azure resources, basically, which is an Azure AD basically feature, okay, and it doesn't come with any cost, by the way, will provide those Azure services with a managed identity in Azure AD. That then I can use that to authorize, okay, into the Key Vault so that I can then get, okay, that information from the Azure Key Vault. I have two types of managed identities, which is system assigned managed identities and user assigned managed identities. So both of them are managed identities. Both of them will have the same capabilities. But system assigned managed identity, it will be associated with the resource. Let's give an example. I'm creating this in a virtual machine. I go to the virtual machine under settings, identity, and I click, yes, I want system assigned managed identity. It's a toggle on and off. We're going to do a demo on this. And yeah, there you go. You have a system assigned managed identity. Then, using role-based access control, give permissions to that managed identity. So inside the VM, I can run code and I can execute what those permissions were. If I delete the virtual machine, that managed identity is deleted too. So we have a managed identity that has a life cycle that is directly associated with the Azure resource. Now, if we go for user-assigned managed identities, they are a resource by their own. And then I can associate that resource to an Azure virtual machine as a user-assigned managed identity. And then I can give permissions to the resource user identity. And then, of course, if we delete the virtual machine, well, that resource still exists. So the life cycle, it is not going to be associated with the Azure virtual machine. So there, the life cycle is basically, it is different there. So let's just do a demo on how to grant VM access to a resource group using ARM. Okay, so using role-based access controls and using managed identities. Okay, so I have just created a Windows virtual machine, which is just like a standard Windows Server 2019 virtual machine. And so if we just go here to virtual machines, you see this AZ videos, MI, VM. So now what I want to do first is I want to activate unmanaged identity for this virtual machine. So I look for identity under the settings, and now I want a system assign, and you just need to say on to this, and you just need to press save and yes. This will then do the registration of this resource in Azure Active Directory, and it will give will create a managed identity for this virtual machine. If I go back home, so now what I want to do is let's go to resource groups. This is the resource group here. I can just go to access control, identity access management. I can click add role assignments, and now let me imagine, I don't know, let's just like a reader, for example, and I can now, instead of choosing here a user or a group, I can select system assigned managed identities for virtual machines. And when I do this, there you go, my two virtual machines. I will go for the first one and I'll just press save. So what I have done now is I have just give a standard role-based access control to a service identity, which in this case it's the managed identity for that specific virtual machine. If I just go back and now if I connect and I do a standard RDP connection to this virtual machine, okay, so what I can do now is, there you go, some more choices. I'll just say this is my username and this here will be my password. There you go. So I'll just say yes, and so we are connecting. now to this virtual machine. So now, first time that we get to the virtual machine, so let's just wait a little bit for all of this process to be completed. There you go. And there you go. So now, what I need to do here is I'm just going to fire up, okay, PowerShell. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to invoke, okay, I'm just going to do an invocation of PowerShell. Okay, let's just have this in here. Let's just put this a little bit bigger so that everyone can see this well in the video. There you go. And now I'm just going to run here some commands. Okay, the first one is this one here. I'm just invoking, this is the managed identity endpoint, managed identity for this virtual machine. Next, okay, I will do this. So basically this will, the next command that I'm doing here, it will extract, okay, the full response, which is stored in the JSON format. So let's just do that bit. So this is content. Okay, it's going to be our response that we have over there, dot content, and then we're just going to pipe this convert from JSON. And there you go. So if we and by the way, let me just fix this too. Sorry. There you go, from JSON. Now that I have this, okay, I can get and extract just the access token. So for this, I'll just type here, like just say arm token equals to, so basically that content that we have, and then dot access underscore token. So this will give me, okay, just the access token. Finally, I'll just call the Azure Resource Manager using that access token, okay? And in order to basically do this, which is this bit here, okay, which I'm just calling the resource group, and then the response, it was really fast, and you see here, so this bit here is the response. So just give me all the properties around that resource group. And so you see that, well, from my virtual machine, I was able to call, okay, that resource group, and then call and understand some of the properties of that resource group. Of course, I could do other stuff. I can now, for example, just create, well, not create because we did reader access only, but if you had like contributor access, you could even create resources based on this managed identity. It's like pretty interesting, the things that we can do with managed identities. And again, you saw how easy it is to implement this. Coming up tomorrow. So tomorrow will be the last day of our virtual training series, and it's going to be a day dedicated on monitoring, optimization, and implementing message-based solutions. So we're going to talk about instrumenting solutions using monitoring and logging, caching using Azure, basically Azure Redis Cache, Azure CDN for the content delivery solutions. And then we're going to talk about event-based solutions and message-based solutions. That's going to be our day tomorrow. It was great to be here today in this day for this virtual training series. But if you want, you can still learn a little bit more using the self-paced learning resources that we have available in the Microsoft Learn. So you can go to aka.ms/learn, and you can see several assets that we have on Microsoft Learn. You can also go to aka.ms/mpn/VTS, and you can also find more resources around some of the virtual training series that we talk about here and we are talking about this week. So I hope to see you tomorrow.
Thank you for sharing your knowledge with us today. I hope our participants will really benefit from it. We'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great day. Bye.
ที่ไหนครับ SA คือที่เขาส่งมามันเหมือนกับมันมีแต่แอปนะครับใช่เดี๋ยวกดอีกครั้งนึงเรื่องเขาส่งมาที่นี่มันเป็นไฟล์ซิปใช่ไหมครับผมกดดาวน์โหลดปุ๊บมันเป็นตัวแอปอย่างเดียวครับไม่มีดัตต้าเบสเอาแอปลงครับแต่ดัตต้าเบสไม่มีนะครับอ๋อครับผมกลัวว่ามันจะมีปัญหากับฟิลครับเช่นว่าสมมติว่าแอปใหม่ก็มีรถฟิลบางฟิลในดัตต้าเบสที่เราพอสตาร์ทขึ้นมาปุ๊บเนี่ยฟิลก็หายไปหรือว่าอาจจะมีอาการแบบไม่ซิงโครไนซ์ที่เป็นข้อมูลไม่ได้ใช่เพราะว่าดัตต้าเบสกับแอปมันไม่ได้มาพร้อมกันเลยถ้าขอได้เข้ามาผมว่าโชว์สุดนะครับผมถ้างั้นเดี๋ยวเอาอย่างไรครับถ้าสตาร์ทกับตัวนี้ผมจะได้แบ็กอัพดัตต้าเบสก่อนแล้วก็แอปแล้วก็เอาแอปใหม่สตาร์ทจากของเก่าที่ตอนดัตต้าเบสเก่าไปก่อนเนี่ยถ้าจะลองฝั่งก็ได้ครับผมจะได้แบ็กอัพดัตต้าเบสไว้ก่อน คือถ้าลงเสร็จแล้วปุ๊บอะผมว่าต้องซิงโครไนซ์ดูครับว่ามีเออร์เรอร์หรือเปล่าซิงโครไนซ์ดูว่าถ้าเจอเออร์เรอร์ก็แสดงว่ามันไม่แมทกัน